We live in an era that demands we be perpetually in bloom. We are taught from the earliest stages of our conditioning that life is a series of harvests to be reaped, goals to be achieved, and products to be displayed. The culture surrounding us hums with the relentless frequency of productivity, whispering that to pause is to fall behind and to rest is to risk irrelevance. We move through our days with a frantic inner clock, pushing ourselves to grow, to build, and to manifest as if we were not human beings, but industrial machines designed for constant output. This is the modern fever, a collective delirium that equates our worth with the size of our harvest, regardless of the health of the soil from which it springs. Have you ever stopped to notice the exhaustion that lives beneath this constant striving? It is a low-humming fatigue that permeates our bones, a fatigue that sleep alone cannot resolve, because it is not merely a tiredness of the body, but a depletion of the spirit. We have been conditioned to believe that if we are not growing, we are dying. We have been taught that a mind not actively engaged in problem-solving is a mind going to waste. Consequently, we treat our internal landscapes with the same ruthless efficiency we apply to our workspaces. We monitor our moods, we optimize our thoughts, and we categorize our experiences as either productive or stagnant. In this relentless pursuit of the evergreen psyche, we have forgotten that nature itself is not meant to bloom forever. Consider the gardener's pruning, that necessary, often painful process of cutting back. We fear this act because we associate it with loss. We see the dead branches of old habits, discarded projects, or outdated roles, and we hesitate to let them go. We cling to them, hoping that if we nourish them enough, they will eventually produce something of value, even when we know in our hearts that they have become brittle and lifeless. We are so afraid of appearing unproductive that we waste our vital resources trying to keep the withered past alive. We do not understand that the pruning is not a punishment. It is an essential act of stewardship. By removing what is no longer serving our true growth, we are not diminishing ourselves, we are creating the space for the vital energy to flow toward what actually matters. This fear of the dormant state is a deep-seated survival mechanism that has been hijacked by our ego. The ego views a season of rest as a threat to its very existence. It perceives fallow as failure. It screams that if we stop for even a moment, we will be surpassed, forgotten, or exposed. It drives us to fill every void, to silence every doubt with activity, and to drown out the whisper of our own needs with the roar of our obligations. We are like travelers who have forgotten how to stop walking because we are afraid that if we sit down, we will never find the strength to stand up again. We keep moving, not because we are heading toward a destination, but because we are fleeing the sound of our own silence. Yet, consider the intelligence of the earth. When the fields are left fallow, it is not because the earth has given up or has run out of purpose. It is a profound, active process of restoration. The nutrients that have been depleted are being replenished, the life that has been taxed is being renewed. It is a period of subterranean activity that is just as vital, if not more so, than the harvest itself. If the earth were forced to produce a harvest every season, without pause, without surrender, it would eventually turn to dust. It would lose its capacity to sustain life. Why do we assume that we, who are woven from the same dust and starlight as the fields, are immune to these laws of renewal? Why do we think we can bypass the winter of our own existence and remain in a state of eternal bloom? We find ourselves today at the precipice of this realization. We are tired of the fever. We are tired of the harvest obsession that leaves us feeling hollow even when our hands are full. We are beginning to sense that there is a different way to inhabit our lives, a way that respects the natural rhythm of our own inner seasons. We are realizing that the winter we have been trying to outrun is actually the place where our deepest insights, our most authentic desires, and our truest capacity for joy are being forged in the dark. It is a daunting prospect, to stand still when the world is running, but it is the only way to ensure that the harvest we eventually produce is worth the life we have lived. We must begin by examining the pruning we have avoided. Look closely at your life. What are the projects you are continuing only because you are afraid of what it would mean to quit? What are the roles you are playing that have long since ceased to be expressions of your authentic self, and have instead become masks you wear to satisfy the expectations of others? These are the dead branches, the withered vines that are draining your resources and blocking the light. We are going to learn how to let them fall. We are going to learn that letting go is not an act of weakness, but a courageous act of preparation. We are preparing the soil of our own being for a growth that is deeper, stronger, and more aligned with the truth of who we are. This requires us to face the panic of stillness. When we first choose to pause, the mind will react with a torrent of anxiety. It will conjure up lists of things we should be doing. It will remind us of our past productivity, and it will try to convince us that we are becoming useless. Do not be fooled by this. This is the ego's final desperate attempt to reclaim its dominion. It is the sound of the machine grinding to a halt. If you can sit with that panic, if you can breathe through the discomfort of being unproductive, you will find that underneath the noise, there is a profound, steady ground. You will find that you have not disappeared and that the world has not ended. You will find that you are still here, and for the first time in a long time, you are actually present in your own experience. We are not going to judge ourselves for the state of our gardens. We are not going to look at the patches of barren earth or the withered stems and feel the sting of shame. We are going to look at our lives with the eyes of a compassionate gardener who understands that every cycle is necessary. We are going to embrace the fallow season as a sacred time, a time for the soil to be turned, the weeds to be pulled, and the roots to be nourished in the dark. We are going to trust that if we allow ourselves to be fallow, if we give ourselves permission to rest without justification, the growth that emerges afterward will be of a quality that the fever of productivity could never produce. This is the beginning of a different kind of harvest, one that is not measured in quantity but in depth. It is the harvest of wisdom, of contentment, of a presence that is not easily rattled by the external world. It is the harvest of a life that is lived according to the rhythms of the soul rather than the demands of the clock. We are beginning a practice of intentional dormancy, a way of stepping out of the harvest fever and entering the sanctuary of our own natural cycles. As you sit here, contemplate the idea that you do not need to bloom today. You do not need to produce today. You do not need to solve the puzzles of your life today. If you are exhausted, let that exhaustion be your truth. If you are barren, let that barrenness be your resting place. There is no need to perform vitality. There is no need to act as if you are in the middle of a fruitful season when you are actually in the middle of a long, cold winter. The truth of your season is enough. Your presence in this moment, even in your fatigue, even in your uncertainty, is a profound and beautiful act of existence. We are going to walk through this fallow time together. We are going to hold the space for the parts of ourselves that are tired and need to retreat. We are going to nurture the silence until it becomes a song of its own. We are going to discover that when we stop demanding that our lives be a perpetual harvest, we finally find the peace that was waiting for us all along. Hidden in the quiet corners of the soil, the fever will pass. The demand for constant growth will lose its urgency, and in its place, we will find something much more enduring. The quiet, steady resilience of a heart that knows how to rest, how to wait, and how to bloom in its own time. You are here, you are enough, and the fallow ground beneath you is the most fertile place on earth. Do not be afraid of it. Do not try to rush past it. Settle in. Let the roots go deep. Let the surface growth fade away. The world will be there when you are ready, But for now, the most important work you can do is to simply allow yourself to be exactly what you are. A human being with a cycle, a rhythm, and a season all your own. This is the truth we are returning to, and it is the foundation upon which all real lasting growth must inevitably rest. Feel the relief of that truth settling into your chest. Feel the weight of the harvest fever lifting from your shoulders. You are not a machine. You are a living, breathing, seasonal reality, and you are finally coming home to the cycles that truly sustain you. Consider, as we move forward, how much energy you have spent simply maintaining the appearance of a harvest. Consider how much of your life force has been poured into the maintenance of things that no longer bear fruit. Imagine if that energy were redirected into the soil, into the hidden inner work of restoration. Imagine the potential that is currently locked away in your own dormancy, waiting for the moment you finally stop fighting the winter. You are standing on the cusp of a profound transformation, one that will not be seen by the world at first, but one that will change everything about how you inhabit your own existence. This is the power of the fallow season, and it is available to you right now in this very breath. Let us begin this work, not with force, but with the quiet, steady grace of a gardener who knows that nature cannot be rushed, but it can be profoundly, lovingly trusted. You are ready to rest, you are ready to wait, and you are ready to become. We must address the specific architecture of our stagnation, the way we have internalized the fear of the fallow season as a fundamental deficiency. When we step into a period of rest, the mind immediately constructs a narrative of decay. We feel the slowing down of our thoughts, the decline in our compulsive need to solve problems, and the fading urgency of our ambitions, and we interpret these as signs of impending obsolescence. We fear that if we are not actively pruning, weeding, and planting, the garden of our life will be overtaken by the wild, chaotic growth of our own unmanaged impulses. We believe that we are the only thing standing between order and total disorder, and this belief keeps us locked in a state of chronic, wearying supervision of our own consciousness. This is the drought of the spirit, a state where we have become so hypervigilant about maintaining our outward appearance of productivity that we have neglected the subterranean depths where our actual sustenance is stored. Look at the way we breathe when we are in this state. It is shallow, caught in the upper chest, as if the body itself is bracing for a blow, or perhaps for the next sprint. We have lost the ability to draw breath from the belly, from the place of quiet, deep-seated power. This is the physiological signature of the harvest fever. The body is constantly signaling to the mind that there is no time for deep replenishment. We are living in a state of perpetual emergency, even in the moments when we are theoretically at rest. The ego's resistance to this fallow period is the most significant obstacle we face. The ego, by its very nature, is a collector of milestones. It measures our existence in terms of what we have achieved, what we have built, and what we have displayed to the world. It thrives on the feedback loops of recognition and progress. When we enter a season of fallow, the ego finds itself without an audience, without a scoreboard, and without a roadmap for success. It panics because it cannot categorize the act of being as a victory. It demands that we perform, that we show results, that we prove our existence through output. When we refuse, the ego begins to whisper that we are disappearing, that our value is dropping, and that we are becoming invisible. But we must see that this sense of disappearance is actually the greatest liberation. It is the moment when the self we have been curating for the benefit of others begins to dissolve, leaving behind the self that was always there, untouched by the metrics of the world. We are not disappearing, we are returning. We are returning to the truth of our own existence, which is not a product to be sold or a project to be completed, but a presence to be inhabited. The emptiness we feel is not a lack of content, it is the presence of space. It is the wide, open, and silent space that is required for a new kind of consciousness to emerge. Think of the wintering branch. In the dead of winter, a tree does not look like it is thriving. It looks brittle, exposed, and vulnerable. It has shed its leaves, it has withdrawn its sap, and it seems to have abandoned its purpose. Yet, this is the time of its most intense hidden work. Beneath the frozen ground, the roots are extending, drinking from the deeper reservoirs, preparing for the life that will eventually push through the bark. The tree is not dying, it is concentrating, it is gathering its essence. We, too, must learn to concentrate our essence during our own fallow times. We must learn to withdraw our energy from the surface-level distractions of our daily routines and direct it toward the deep inner work of restoration. This requires us to face the second arrow of shame. When we are not productive, we don't just feel unproductive, we feel guilty. We feel as though we are cheating the system, as though we are failing a hidden test. We think, if I am not doing something useful, what right do I have to exist? This is the core belief we must uproot. It is a belief that treats human beings as if they were industrial assets. We must replace this with the understanding that we are living entities, and that our existence is its own justification. We do not need to earn our place in the world by the sweat of our brow or the speed of our output. We belong here simply because we are. This realization is not intellectual, it is somatic. It must be felt in the muscles and the nerves. Practice this. When you find yourself in a moment of genuine, unproductive rest, perhaps sitting in a chair with nothing to do, or walking without a destination and the anxiety of the should begins to rise, do not push it away. Do not try to soothe it with distraction. Instead, bring your attention to the physical sensation of that should. Notice where it lives in your body. Does it tighten the jaw? Does it constrict the breath? Does it create a dull ache in the shoulders? Just be with that sensation. Treat it like a visitor who has lost their way. Do not fight them, but do not invite them to stay. Just observe the way they move through your system, and then, with a slow, deliberate exhale, let them pass. By doing this, you are manually overriding the ego's alarm system. You are proving to your nervous system that you are safe. Even when you are not productive, you are creating a new neural pathway, one that links rest not to failure, but to a profound quiet integrity. This is the work of cultivating the unhurried heart. It is a work that cannot be hurried, of course, because its very essence is the surrender of hurry. It is a work that asks for patience, for persistence, and for the willingness to be uncomfortable until the discomfort itself becomes a source of wisdom. We must also reconsider our relationships during this time. When we are in a season of fallow, we may find that our interactions with others feel different. We may not have the same desire to perform, to charm, or to impress. We may find that we are more interested in listening than in speaking, more interested in being present than in being witty. This can be unsettling for those around us, who are perhaps accustomed to the character we have played. They may ask why we are so quiet or why we are not engaging in the usual games. This is an opportunity for profound honesty. You do not need to explain yourself, but you can share the truth of your experience. I am learning to be present in a way that doesn't require me to perform. This simple declaration can be a gift, a way of inviting others to consider their own need for rest. We are also learning to clear the weeds, those emotional and mental tangles that we have allowed to grow unchecked because we were too busy with the harvest. During our fallow time, we have the space to confront the resentments we have buried, the fears we have ignored, and the grief we have suppressed. These are the weeds that have been choking our authentic expression. We must pull them, not with anger, but with the cool, clean precision of a gardener who knows that the soil must be clear for the new growth to be sustained. This is the most difficult aspect of the fallow season. It is not always a peaceful, golden rest. It is often a time of sorting through the debris, but it is necessary. You cannot plant the seeds of your true self in soil that is clogged with the rot of the past. Think of the way you have treated your own fatigue in the past. You have likely tried to drink it away, to exercise it away, or to distract it away. You have treated it like a problem to be solved, a malfunction in the machine. Now, try treating it like a messenger. When you are tired, ask the fatigue, "What are you trying to tell me?" Perhaps it is telling you that you have been moving in the wrong direction. Perhaps it is telling you that you have been carrying the weight of others' expectations. Perhaps it is telling you that you have lost touch with the original impulse that brought you to your work. Listen to the fatigue. It has more truth to tell you than your ambition ever will. We are, in this practice, reclaiming the dignity of the dormant state. We are honoring the necessity of the shadow, the silence, and the emptiness. We are realizing that our value is not a variable that fluctuates with our output, but a constant that remains, even when we are doing absolutely nothing. This is the foundation of the unhurried heart. It is the realization that we are not here to harvest, we are here to experience, to grow, and to unfold in harmony with the life that pulses through us. As we continue to dwell in this fallow season, let us be gentle with the parts of us that still ache for the harvest. Let us recognize the siren song of productivity for what it is: a temptation to bypass the essential, slow work of the soul. Let us choose, instead, to stay in the garden, to tend the soil, to watch the seasons turn, and to trust that when the time for bloom eventually arrives, and the result will be something that can never be replicated by the fever of the machine. You are not losing time, you are reclaiming it. You are stepping out of the industrial rhythm and into the cosmic rhythm, where everything has its place, its time, and its perfect season. This is the great quiet work of our lives. It is the work of becoming fully human, which is to say, becoming fully cyclical. We are not linear beings. We are beings of flow, of ebb and tide, of growth and rest, of blooming and pruning. To embrace this is to embrace the truth of our own nature, and once you have embraced it, you will never be able to go back to the fever. You will have tasted the cool, clear water of the unhurried heart, and the harvest fever will seem, in retrospect, like a very long and very unnecessary dream. Take a moment to feel the weight of this. You are not behind, you are not missing out. You are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly the work that is required for your own deep and lasting transformation. The world is busy, the world is loud, the world is demanding, but you do not need to answer to the world. You answer to the soil. You answer to the rhythm. You answer to the truth that resides in your own still heart. And that is enough. That is more than enough. You are the gardener, the soil, and the harvest all at once, and you are finally beginning to tend to yourself with the love you have always deserved. We delve now into the architecture of the fallow, the subtle and profound art of holding space for our own becoming. If the first two stages of our journey were about the recognition of the fever and the anatomy of our resistance, this stage is about the mastery of the void. We must learn to inhabit the emptiness without the compulsion to fill it. This is not a passive surrender, it is a highly skilled, intentional form of presence. When we stand in the midst of our own barren season, the mind will naturally seek to construct a scaffold of purpose to avoid the vertigo of purposelessness. It will suggest that we use this time for self-improvement, for learning new skills, or for planning the next great venture. We must gently, firmly decline these suggestions. To use the fallow season as a project is to miss its entire point. The point is not to fix the garden, the point is to listen to the soil. Think of the sculptor's negative space. The artist knows that the beauty of a statue is not merely in the stone that remains, but in the shapes formed by the stone that has been carved away. In our lives, we have spent so much time obsessed with the solid objects of our accomplishments or titles, our bank accounts, our reputation, that we have completely ignored the negative space of our existence. We have ignored the silence between our words, the moments of pause between our actions, and the vast, unformed potential that exists in the gaps of our busy schedule. This negative space is not an absence of meaning, it is the very source of it. It is where our creativity hides, where our deeper intuitions reside, and where our sense of self is not defined by what we do, but by the quiet, radiant fact that we are. This requires us to master the guest house of thoughts. When we stop the cycle of constant doing, the mind, deprived of its usual distractions, will begin to offer up all the unaddressed business of our lives. It will present memories we have avoided, anxieties we have suppressed, and fears we have outrun. If we identify with these thoughts, if we try to entertain them or argue with them, we will quickly fall back into the fever. Instead, we must treat them like guests arriving at a house. We acknowledge their presence, we offer them a moment of recognition, but we do not allow them to dictate the terms of our existence. We see them, we let them sit, and eventually we let them depart. We remain the house. We remain the steady, immovable center of our own experience, while the thoughts, like the weather, simply pass through. There is a specific, potent form of courage required here, the courage to be seen as unproductive. In a culture that worships the busy, the act of slowing down is a radical, almost subversive statement. When we stop performing, people will inevitably ask what we are doing with our time. They will wonder why we aren't chasing the next goal. To hold your ground in the face of that questioning, to smile and say, "I am tending to my inner soil," is to declare your independence from the industrial rhythm. It is a declaration that you have found a higher authority than the clock, the authority of your own natural cycle. This is not a matter of pride, it is a matter of integrity. It is the integrity of a tree that refuses to bear fruit in the winter simply because the market demands a harvest. We must also practice the art of somatic softening. The harvest fever is, as we have seen, a state of chronic muscular bracing. During your fallow time, check in with the body. Are your shoulders hunched toward your ears? Is your jaw clenched? Is your belly pulled tight, as if you are holding your breath against an oncoming blow? These are the physical manifestations of the fear that we are not enough. Take the time to intentionally soften these areas. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw release. Let the belly expand with a full, unhurried breath. This is not just relaxation, it is celestial to your deepest nervous system that the danger has passed. By softening the body, you are giving the mind permission to let go of its vigilance. You are creating the conditions under which the spirit can finally stop defending itself and start restoring itself. Consider the wisdom of the patient seed. A seed does not worry about the harvest while it is in the dark of the earth. It does not fret about whether it will have enough sun or whether the rain will come. It is entirely focused on the process of becoming itself. It trusts the cycle, it trusts the soil, it trusts the inherent intelligence that is encoded within it. We are not different. We have been conditioned to believe that we must be the masters of our own growth, but we are actually the participants in it. We are the partners of a force that is far older and far wiser than our intellectual planning. When we are fallow, we are not dormant, we are aligning. We are connecting with that deeper intelligence, allowing it to reorient us toward the growth that is uniquely our own. This alignment requires us to strip away the expectations of who we are supposed to be. During this period, you may feel like you are losing your identity. You may feel like you don't know what you want, where you are going, or what your purpose is anymore. This is not a crisis, it is a clearance. It is the shedding of the false identity that was built to serve the harvest fever. You are becoming a blank page, and while that can be terrifying, it is the only state in which a truly authentic story can be written. If you try to hold on to the old identity, you are merely patching the old fence. Let the fence fall, let the garden be wild for a time. Let the old you dissolve so that the new you the one that is not defined by productivity, can finally emerge. We must learn to be comfortable with the silence that follows the clearing. This silence can be loud. It can be filled with the echo of our own self-criticism and the ghost of our past ambitions. But if we stay with it, if we keep returning to the sensation of the body and the rhythm of the breath, the silence begins to change. It stops being a void and starts being a presence. It becomes a rich, fertile field of possibility. In this silence we can hear the small, quiet voices of our true desires, the ones we have been ignoring for years because they weren't practical or productive. We can hear the call of our own soul, not in the roar of the crowd, but in the soft, persistent whisper of the present moment. This is the alchemy of the fallow. It is the process of turning the lead of our exhaustion and the frustration of our perceived failures into the gold of a life that is fundamentally, deeply, and vibrantly our own. It is the work of transforming our relationship with time, from time as a scarcity to time as a vast unfolding mystery. It is the work of reclaiming our humanity from the machinery of the modern age. And it is the most meaningful work we will ever do, because it is the work that prepares us to live a life that is not just successful by external measures, but successful by the measure of our own quiet heart. Do not fear that you are missing out. While you are in the fallow season, the world will continue to move, to strive and to produce. Let it. You are not meant to participate in the race. You are meant to walk the earth. You are meant to observe the turning of the seasons. You are meant to live in a way that respects your own unique and necessary cycles. When you emerge from this, you will find that you have a stamina that the fever-driven will never possess, and a clarity that the harvest-obsessed will never know. You will be rooted, you will be centered, and you will be ready not to build something for others, but to grow into the person you were always meant to become. As we sit in this silence, feel the truth of your own necessity. You are not a burden to the earth, and you are not a failure in the garden. You are an essential part of the landscape of existence. Your rest is as important as your work. Your stillness is as important as your movement. Your dormancy is the very thing that guarantees your vitality. Trust this. Trust the soil. Trust the dark. Trust the time it takes to become. The harvest will come, but it will come in its own right and perfect way, and you will be ready to meet it, not as a weary servant to the output, but as a master of your own authentic experience. Continue to breathe into the space. Feel the openness in your chest, the steadiness in your spine. You have nothing to prove. You have nowhere to be. You are simply here, in the sanctuary of your own being, tending to the things that cannot be measured, but can be deeply, profoundly known. This is the heart of the matter. This is the truth that the fever tried to hide from you. You are enough, just as you are, in the depth of your rest, in the middle of your waiting, and in the quiet of your own soul. And that is the only place from which true life can ever begin. We have arrived at the threshold of the practical, the place where the philosophy of the fallow season is translated into the architecture of your daily life. To live this truth requires a deliberate, disciplined dismantling of the automatic triggers that keep you trapped in the harvest fever. This is not a project to be mastered, it is a way of being to be cultivated. We begin with the practice of the non-productive interval. You will, by design, carve out moments in your day that are entirely free from the necessity of output. This is not meditation, and it is not a break meant to recharge you for more work. It is an act of defiance against the industrial rhythm. When you take these minutes, you must not read, you must not listen to podcasts, you must not plan, and you must not even attempt to relax. You must simply exist, sit, stand, or walk, but do not seek to change your state. Observe the mind as it scrambles to fill the void, observe the sudden surge of restlessness, and observe the internal voice that calls this a waste of time. By doing nothing, you are training your nervous system to tolerate the absence of utility. You are proving to yourself that your existence does not require a justification of productivity. This is the most potent training for the unhurried heart, for it is in these tiny empty gaps that the fever loses its hold. The second practice is the cultivation of the sensory anchor. When the harvest fever strikes, when you feel that frantic tightening sensation in your throat or that rapid-fire looping of future anxiety, you are, by definition, no longer in your body. You are in the realm of the abstract, the realm of the plan, the target, and the judgment. To return, you must use the body as a sensory compass. Shift your focus away from the story the mind is telling you and pour your attention into the immediate, uninterpreted data of the present. Feel the texture of the surface beneath your hands. Notice the subtle shifts in temperature in the air against your skin. Track the rhythmic expansion and contraction of your ribcage, or listen to the distant, chaotic sounds of the world without labeling them as background noise. Do not use these as tools to calm down. Use them as tools to inhabit the reality that exists beneath the performance. When you are fully anchored in your senses, you will find that the panic of the fever cannot survive, because the fever requires a flight into the future, and the senses require a rooting in the now. We must also practice the art of conscious pruning. We hold on to so much because we believe that every commitment, every project, and every obligation is a pillar holding up the roof of our worth. This is a lie. During your fallow practice, write down every single demand currently resting on your time. Look at them not as necessary tasks, but as branches. Ask yourself, of each one, is this a branch that is currently bearing fruit? Or is it a branch that is simply occupying space and stealing the sun? If the answer is the latter, you must begin the practice of pruning. This does not mean you must quit everything today, but it does mean you must stop pouring your vital life force into the maintenance of the dead. Say no to the task that is only done out of a sense of performative duty. Withdraw your energy from the relationship that requires you to play a character you have outgrown. Pruning is an act of clarity. It is the practice of saying, I have only so much light to give, and I will only give it to the parts of my life that possess the capacity to grow. This leads us to the practice of the unhurried speech. We live in a world where speed is equated with intelligence, where we feel we must answer immediately, speak quickly, and fill every pause. This too is a symptom of the harvest fever. It is the performance of readiness. Challenge yourself in your daily interactions to intentionally lower the tempo of your communication. When a question is posed to you, wait. Allow the silence to sit there for a heartbeat or two before you formulate your response. Feel the discomfort of that pause. Observe how the other person reacts when you do not instantly provide the expected line. By slowing your speech, you are reclaiming the space of your own mind. You are declaring that you do not need to rush to be relevant, and that your contributions are not merely data to be uploaded, but expressions of your actual unfolding presence. This is a radical, quiet, and deeply powerful way to anchor yourself in the fallow state, even while interacting with the busiest of worlds. We must also implement the practice of the seasonal reflection. At the end of every week, take time to review your life not by the metrics of success, but by the metrics of vitality. Do not ask, what did I produce? Ask instead, where did I feel most alive? Where did I feel most drained? What parts of my garden were overgrown, and what parts were in bloom? This is the gardener's log. It allows you to track your own rhythms. You will begin to see that there are certain environments, certain tasks, and certain ways of being that are inimical to your soul, and others that nourish it. You are not a static object, you are a living process. To know your own seasons is to respect them. When you see that you have been in a period of intense activity, you can consciously choose to initiate a period of fallow rather than waiting for the inevitable burnout to force it upon you. You are becoming the steward of your own life force. We must train the mind to recognize the difference between doing and being. In our culture, these two are conflated. We believe that doing is the only way to prove we are being, but true being is not the result of doing, it is the ground from which all healthy doing must emerge. If you have a task that must be completed, practice doing it in a state of being rather than a state of fever. Move slowly. Maintain the focus of your awareness in your body rather than in the future outcome. Feel the movement of your hands, the contact of your feet, the quality of your attention. You will find that when you work from a state of being, you can accomplish just as much and often. You can accomplish it with far greater quality and far less exhaustion than when you work from a state of fever. You are moving from the rhythm of the machine to the rhythm of the master craftsman. This is the path of the transparent life. It is not about retreating from the world, but about returning to it with a different quality of presence. You are learning to be a quiet, grounded force in the midst of a noisy, frantic environment. You are learning that you can hold space for yourself, for your needs, and for the necessary cycles of your own soul, without needing the approval of anyone else. You are learning that when you stop performing, you finally start living. And as you continue this work, you will find that the fever begins to lose its hold on you. It will still arise. Of course, it is the air we breathe, but it will no longer find a home in you. You will be too rooted, too present, and too connected to the cycles of your own existence to be swayed by the madness of the harvest. As you practice these things, remember to be gentle with yourself. You are unlearning a lifetime of conditioning. You will fail, you will slip, you will find yourself running again. When you do not judge yourself. That judgment is just another part of the fever. Just acknowledge the return of the habit. Take a deep, belly-driven breath, feel the ground beneath your feet, and return to the practice. You are not trying to reach a state of perfection. You are trying to reach a state of honesty. You are trying to be a person who lives in accordance with their own natural, vital rhythm. The more you practice, the more you will notice the profound, quiet joy of the unhurried heart. It is a joy that is not dependent on the outcome of your work. It is a joy that exists in the simple, mundane reality of the present. It is the joy of the tree in winter, which knows that even though it looks barren, it is full of potential. It is the joy of the gardener, who knows that the soil is being tended. It is the joy of the human being who has finally realized that they are not a machine meant for the harvest, but a garden meant to be cultivated, respected, and deeply, lovingly inhabited. Continue this work. It is the only work that truly matters. It is the work of your life. It is the work of your liberation, and you are doing it in this very moment. With every conscious breath you take, you are the garden. You are the gardener, and the season of your life is exactly, perfectly, what it needs to be. We find ourselves in the quiet stillness that follows the long, necessary winter of the soul. The fever of the harvest, once so loud and demanding, has faded into the distance, no longer dictating the rhythm of our blood or the urgency of our thoughts. We have learned that the fallow season was never a sign of our end, but the very crucible in which our truest resilience was forged. By surrendering the illusion of perpetual bloom, we have discovered that we are not fragile things to be protected from the frost, but organic beings whose essence requires the dark, the quiet, and the slow turning of the soil to reach full maturity. We now stand in the early soft light of a new understanding. The garden of our life is no longer a factory floor, but a sanctuary. We walk through it with a different quality of attention that does not seek to measure, to prune with anxiety, or to force a yield from reluctant ground. We have learned to trust the subterranean wisdom that carries on in the absence of our desperate interference. We have seen that the roots we grew during our dormancy are far deeper and more complex than any of the surface-level achievements we once prized. We are anchored now, not by the heavy chains of ambition, but by the quiet confidence of a heart that knows its own rhythm and respects the timing of the earth. This liberation is not a victory over the world, but a reconciliation with ourselves. We have made peace with the barren patches, the withered stalks, and the times of silence when nothing seemed to be happening. We recognize now that these moments were the most vital stages of our unfolding. We have stopped asking the world to validate our existence through our productivity, and in that cessation, we have found a peace that remains unbroken regardless of the external weather. We are no longer afraid of the fallow. We understand that the fallow is where we are truly made, where the noise of the ego is silenced, and where the core of our being is allowed to drink from the deepest wells of potential. As you step forward, you carry this truth with you like a steady inner lamp. You know that you can handle the demands of the day without becoming the fever that drives them. You know that you can work, create, and engage with the world, but you will do so from a place of center, a place of rest, and a place of profound integrity. The harvest will come, as it always does, but it will come as a natural consequence of your presence, not as a desperate, forced outcome of your striving. You are a seasonal reality, and you are finally at home in the cycle of your own existence. The frantic pace of the modern age may continue to roar around you, but you have found the stillness at its heart. You have learned that the most powerful thing you can do is to remain authentic, to respect your own timing, and to live with the unhurried grace of someone who knows that they are not a resource to be depleted, but a life to be lived. You are the gardener who has finally learned that the garden is not a task, but a lifelong unfolding. As you contemplate the vast, open future that awaits you, now that you have fully embraced the sacred necessity of your own seasons, what is the one seed that you have been holding back, waiting for the right moment to plant, now that you finally trust the ground beneath your feet?